Is Calgary in a buyer's market right now? The honest answer is it depends entirely on what you're buying. And that one distinction is worth understanding before you make any moves. Right now in Calgary, we have a condo market that is genuinely one of the best buying opportunities in years, and a detached home market that is still firmly in seller's territory in most parts of the city. Two completely different situations, treat them the same way, and you're going to miss an opportunity or walk into a negotiation completely wrong. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly what's happening, what the data actually says, and what it means for you as a buyer right now. Let's get into it. Quick note before we dive in, I work with professionals relocating to Calgary every week, and the market question is one of the first things that comes up in every conversation. If you want to talk through what this means for your specific situation, my Calendly link and the free home buyer guide are both in the description below. Happy to help. All right, let's look at the data. Quick benchmark before the numbers. Months of supply under 2 means seller's market. 2 to 4 is balanced. Over 4 favors the buyer. Sales to new listings ratio below 40% is a buyer's market. 40 to 60% is a balanced market, and above 60% is a seller's market. Those are straight from the Calgary Real Estate Board. That's what I'm using today. Now let's look at the data. So what does the overall market in Calgary look like right now? According to the most recent CREB data from April 2026, the citywide sales to new listings ratio sits at 55%, and months of supply is just under 3 months. By the standard definition, that puts us in the overall balanced market territory, trending slightly towards the seller's side. But here's what most people get wrong. That 55% number is an average across every property type in the city. And right now, those property types are living in completely different realities. When you average a very tight market with a very loose market, you get a number that accurately describes neither one. So let's look at each segment separately because that's where the real picture is. Let's start with detached homes because this is what most of my relocation clients are buying right now. The detached market in Calgary is in firm seller's territory. As of April 2026, there are just over 2 months of supply for detached homes across the city, and the detached benchmark sits at 745,000. That's actually up from March, which tells you something about where the momentum is. And here's what makes this even more interesting. When you break it down by district, the picture gets even tighter in the areas where most buyers would want to be. The Northwest, the West, and the South districts are all sitting with less than 2 months of supply right now. That means if you're targeting communities like Tuscany, Springbank Hill, or the established Southwest communities, you are in a seller's market, not a balanced market. Seller's market. Good homes in those areas are still attracting attention, and pricing correctly matters a lot. See, this is where people get it wrong. They read the headline number, they see balanced market, and they think they have all the leverage in the world. Then they go in with a lowball offer on a well-priced detached home in a desirable community and wonder why it didn't work. The data is telling you in the detached segments of most parts of Calgary, sellers still hold all the cards. Now here's where the story completely flips, and this is where most people miss a real opportunity. The condo market in Calgary right now is genuinely a buyer's market. As of April 2026, there are nearly 1,920 condo units in inventory, which is about 27% higher than the long-term trends and approaching levels we haven't seen since the 2008 financial crisis. The sales to new listings ratio for condos is sitting at around 46%, and there's over 4 months of supply. The benchmark price for condos are at $301,000, down more than 9% year over year. What that means practically is that if you're buying a condo in Calgary right now, you have all the negotiating power that you simply did not have 18 months ago. You have choices. You have time to be deliberate. Sellers in the segment are competing for your attention, not the other way around. For buyers who are open to a condo or a townhome as an entry point into the Calgary market, Whether that's a first purchase, an investment property, or a stepping stone towards a detached home later, this is materially better buying environment that we've seen in years. The opportunity is real. Whether it persists is the question. So why are these two segments behaving so differently? It comes down to supply. Calgary went through a construction boom over the last 3 years that was heavily weighted towards condo style units. Builders were putting up record numbers of condos and rental apartments, partly driven by strong migration numbers and partly driven by demand for more affordable product. At the same time, detached home starts actually pulled back. So you ended up with a surplus of condo and apartment units hitting the market at the exact same time the migration levels started to normalize after the post-pandemic surge. More supply, relatively less demand, that's your buyer's market in condos. For detached homes, the opposite happened. Supply stayed constrained in most desirable parts of the city, and even though the overall demand has moderated a bit, the lack of inventory in the detached segment is keeping conditions tight. Our Calgary Real Estate Board chief economist described it as a market that ranges from tighter conditions for detached homes to buyer-friendly conditions in the condo sector. That's exactly what the data shows. I work with a lot of professionals relocating to Calgary, and this is the exact market we're walking into right now. So here's how I translate this data into practical guidance. If your plan is to buy a detached home in one of the established communities on your shortlist, understand that you're not in a strong negotiating position on price in most areas. Good homes in good communities are still moving. Where you can negotiate is on conditions, possession dates, and inclusions. Get pre-approved, know your number, and be ready to move on the right property when it comes up. Waiting for detached prices to drop significantly in the Northwest or the Southwest based on the headline data would be a mistake. If you're open to a condo or a townhome, either as a first step into the market or as a longer term choice, this is generally one of the better windows I've seen in a long time. There's real selection, real negotiating room, and sellers who are motivated. The caveat is that condo prices have been falling, and while this opportunity exists now, the floor isn't necessarily confirmed yet. Do your homework on specific buildings, strata fees, and reserve fund health before you commit. And if you're still in the research and planning phase, what this market is telling you is that there's no burning urgency to rush into a decision on the detached side, but there's also no sign of a dramatic correction that would make waiting significantly better. The opportunity cost of waiting is real when you factor in rent, lifestyle, and the equity you're not building. Some buyers who waited 6 months are now realizing that the window they hoped for just didn't show up. So bottom line, detached homes in Calgary are still in a seller's market for most parts of the city. Condos are genuinely in a buyer's market, and the right move depends entirely on what you're buying and where. If you want to understand exactly how this market affects your specific situation, whether you're buying detached or considering a condo or still figuring out your timeline, that's exactly the conversations that I have with buyers every week. Book a free call through the Calendly link in the description and let's map it out. And for the people relocating from Toronto, if you haven't watched my video on the cost of living comparison between Calgary and Toronto yet, that's the one to pair with this. I'll link it right here. I'll see you in the next one.